All right, so we're almost done the 70s. And we're almost done with me wearing Montreal jerseys. And it's funny and humorous because this is 21 times, but it's almost done. The Montreal Canadiens 77-78 season is another work of wonder. Instead of 60 wins, they record 59, and instead of 8 losses, they have 10. So really not a lot of not a lot of weaknesses with this team, and 11 ties to go with that. Second place in that division, Detroit 32, 34, and 14, followed by the Kings at 31, 34, and 15. Pittsburgh 25, 37, and 18, and the Capitals are back to the bottom, 17, 49, and 14. The Adams division, 51, 18, and 11 is the record of the Boston Bruins, followed by Buffalo at 44, 19, and 12. Toronto 41, 29, and 10. So a very solid season for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then there's Cleveland at 22, 45, and 13. Not a single important game is played in Cleveland. This is the end for Cleveland. They will be contracted before the next season. And again, did Cleveland really have a team to support, much like Kansas City or California / Oakland? The answer's no, not really. And that's it. That's Cleveland's NHL life right there. Is yesterday's video and today's. That's it. Patrick division. New York Islanders 48, 17, and 15. Philadelphia 45, 20, and 15. The Atlanta Flames 34, 27, and 19. So Atlanta's respectable, but their attendance is kind of in the tank because they're not really getting any further ahead and they're not winning anything in the playoffs. And missing the playoffs, the New York Rangers at 30, 37, and 13. So this is a rough time for the New York Rangers. And then in the Smythe division, which again is still mostly garbage, Chicago's 32, 29, and 19. The Colorado Rockies are 19, 40, and 21, and they're second in that division. So, yeah, there's a bit of a difference here. And honestly, if Cleveland's in this division, maybe they look a little better. Vancouver's third at 20, 43, and 17. So Vancouver's just miserable, and it's not going to get a lot better. St. Louis 20, 47, and 13. And there's the Minnesota North Stars at 18, 53, and 9. And when Cleveland's being contracted, it's Minnesota that's going to benefit because somebody's got to benefit. And it might as well be the team that ends up with the fewest points in the league that year. It's not Washington, it's Minnesota. August 8th, 1977, the Los Angeles Kings signed Charlie Simmer. And of course, Simmer, Taylor, and Marcel Dion are going to go on to form a fantastic line for the Kings. It's not going to be enough because it's the only line that can score, but it's a start. December 11th, 1977, Tom Bladen of the Philadelphia Flyers sets a record for defenseman. He gets 8 points in an 11-1 win over Cleveland. And he's plus 10 in that game. Plus 10 in a game over Cleveland. And to think Cleveland didn't come out and support that team and sell them out. March 24th, 1978, Phil Esposito breaks Bobby Hull's record with his 29th hat trick, playing for the New York Rangers. So he's finishing out his career very nicely, playing well, but the Rangers aren't very good, and I'm sure Phil at this point probably wasn't all that happy himself. The Boston Bruins set a record with 11 20-goal scorers. 11. It's a record that's never been equaled. 11 20-goal scorers. And then April 1st of 1978, Mike Bossy is the first rookie to score 50 goals. He ends up getting 53 in his rookie year. So now all hands are on deck for the New York Islanders. All the key pieces they need except one. The Hart goes to Lafleur of Montreal. The Art Ross goes to Lafleur of Montreal. The Norris Trophy goes to Potvin of the New York Islanders. The Calder goes to, of course, Mike Bossy of the New York Islanders. The Selke Trophy is invented this season. Best defensive forward. And the first winner, Bob Gainey. Bob Gainey of the Montreal Canadiens is the perfect winner of the Selke Trophy. And every winner since then has kind of been compared to Bob Gainey, and for good reason. Gainey was a guy who'd hurt you at both ends of the ice. He really was. The Vezina Trophy, Dryden and Larocque share it for the Montreal Canadiens. The Lady Byng goes to Butch Goring of the Los Angeles Kings. Remember that piece I said the Islanders are missing? Goring's going to be there in a couple of years. Masterton Trophy for dedication to the sport goes to Butch Goring of the LA Kings as well. The Lester Pearson Award goes to Guy Lafleur of the Montreal Canadiens. The Conn Smythe playoff MVP is Larry Robinson of the Montreal Canadiens. And for growing the game in the States, the Patrick Award goes to Phil Esposito, Tom Fitzgerald, William T. Tutt, and William W. Wirtz. So Bill Wirtz. Yep, that's right. The number 1 draft pick that year is Bobby Smith. He'd go on to play 1,077 games, get 357 goals, 679 assists, 1,036 points. And you'll never hear him talked about as a Hall of Famer. Basically doesn't happen because he played during the 80s when everybody scored 1,000 points. So, do I think it's fair? Probably not. I like Bobby Smith. But, again, I was a North Stars fan, and, I like the guy, so, of course, I would think it was fine if he went to the Hall. But I don't think it's ever going to happen. First team All-Stars from the 77-78 season. Trottier from the Islanders, Guy Lafleur from the Montreal Canadiens, Clark Gillies from the New York Islanders, Denny Potvin from the Islanders, Brad Park from Boston, and Ken Dryden from the Montreal Canadiens. So we have got a lot of New York Islanders showing up here. And in the second team, Darryl Sittler of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Mike Bossy of the New York Islanders, Steve Shutt of the Montreal Canadiens, Larry Robinson of the Montreal Canadiens, Borje Salming of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Don Edwards of the Buffalo Sabres. So there's Don Edwards as your second team goaltender, and really solid goaltender, kind of forgotten. The WHA is down to 8 teams. And 6 teams apply to join the NHL. What did the NHL tell them? Nah. No thanks. And the NHL knows they've got the WHA over a barrel. The NHL is well aware. And I think that even at that point, I think it was quite obvious the WHA would do some kind of a merger with the NHL. But they wanted a lot of teams in there, and they didn't end up making it. And Cincinnati made it right up to the end of in the WHA, but the NHL really didn't want any of it. I think they took the teams that were the healthiest, and if you look at history since then, most of those teams have moved. Edmonton's the only one that didn't move, and they were close. Back in the 90s, Edmonton was close. So they're down to 8 teams, and 6 teams had applied to join the NHL, and they were told politely no. And then we get to the playoffs. Okay, the preliminary round. Philadelphia beats Colorado in 2 games. So the Colorado Rockies make the playoffs, don't win a game. Buffalo beats the Rangers in 3. Toronto beats LA 2-0, which means that they changed the playoff format that year. Must have been 1v16. Let me take a quick look here. No, it's still not 1v16, but they did change the format. Buffalo beats the Rangers in 3. Toronto beats LA in 2 straight. And Detroit beats Atlanta in 2 straight. So the Atlanta Flames can't make it out of the first round, although they would have had home ice against the Detroit Red Wings having the better record. The quarterfinals. So things get seeded out, and Montreal plays Detroit, the lowest seed in the quarterfinals, and beats them in 5. Boston beats Chicago in 4. So again, the Smythe division doesn't put up much of a fight. It really doesn't. And Toronto beats the Islanders in 7. So again, this is that narrative. The Islanders can't win. Can't win. Look at this. They can't get over the hump. Because now the New York Islanders at 48 wins lose to a Toronto Maple Leafs team with 41 wins. So the Leafs take advantage of the Islanders, and the Islanders fans are left scratching their heads. Again, a 7-game loss. Philadelphia beats Buffalo in 5, so Buffalo doesn't like playing Philly any more than my Bruins like playing Montreal. Keep that in mind. In the semifinals, Montreal sweeps Toronto. So Toronto coming out of that win, that upset win over the Islanders, might have felt pretty good, but Montreal doused that fire pretty quick. And I think that's the last time Montreal and Toronto play each other in the playoffs. I want to say that it is, but I don't know that tomorrow's video will feature a matchup. I don't think so. I think that's it. Boston beat Philadelphia in 5. So the Flyers are starting to get further away from that Stanley Cup. And the Bruins look like they're close to the Stanley Cup, don't they? But what do I always say? Boston versus Montreal is a bad matchup for Boston. Let's get to it. Boston loses in Montreal twice. Montreal wins 4-1 and 3-2 in overtime. The Boston Bruins then win at home 4-0 and 4-3 in overtime. So the series is tied at 2. What's going to happen next? Right. That's going to happen. Montreal wins game 5, 4-1. And then they go to Boston and they win game 6, 4-1. Montreal wins another Stanley Cup. It's another Dynasty. And 76, 77, 78. That's 3 in a row. Tomorrow's going to be 1979. This is an extremely impressive roster, top to bottom, for Montreal. And so many star players. And I don't know how else to put it other than it's basically Montreal toying with the rest of the league. Montreal swept Toronto. They beat Detroit in 5, and they beat Boston in 6. So Boston's the only one that even gives them a fight. And tomorrow's video, if you're a Bruins fan, you're not going to want to watch it. I'm just saying that right now. You're not going to want to watch it. Because even as somebody who didn't follow hockey in 1979, it bothers me, the whole incident that took place between Boston and Montreal then. But, not taking anything away from Montreal, fantastic team, and as hard as Boston tried, they just weren't good enough to beat the Montreal Canadiens that year. So, that's the 1977-78 season. We're now only 40 years away from present day. So that's not bad, right? It's not bad. We'll finish up this series pretty much as the season starts, which also is kind of fun as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate everybody who's been supporting this series along the way. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through and you just happen upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.